In 1993, a film was released that would become one of the most beloved movies in Latino cinema history, a 3-hour epic about family, loyalty, and the devastating consequences of choices made in the barrios of East Los Angeles. It featured unknown actors who would become legends. It told a story that had never been told on the big screen before, and yet almost nobody saw it in theaters. Blood In, Blood Out, also known as Bound by Honor, has been watched by millions of people across generations. Its phrases have become part of the cultural lexicon. Vatos, Locos forever, lines that resonate through time, passed down from fathers to sons, from cousins to cousins, from cellmates to cellmates. But here is what they do not want you to know. This film was never supposed to find an audience. Hollywood tried to bury it. The studio that made it has spent decades distancing itself from its existence, and the story of how this movie survived against all odds is almost as dramatic as the film itself. The year was 1993. Hollywood was riding high on action blockbusters and romantic comedies. The industry had a formula, and that formula did not include a 3-hour crime drama about Mexican-American gang culture directed by an acclaimed filmmaker who refused to compromise his vision. Taylor Hackford was not an unknown director. He had already won an Academy Award for Best Live-Action Short Subject for his film Teenage Father in 1979. He had directed the critically acclaimed An Officer and a Gentleman and Against All Odds. When he approached Hollywood Pictures, a subsidiary of the Disney Company, with his passion project about 3 Latino cousins whose lives take dramatically different paths, he believed he had the credibility to get it made the right way. The studio greenlit the project with a $35 million budget, but from the beginning there were tensions over the scope of Hackford's vision. The original cut of Blood In, Blood Out ran approximately 4 hours and 45 minutes. Hackford had envisioned it as potentially 2 films. The studio demanded it be cut down to a single theatrical release. What emerged was a 3-hour epic, but even that length made executives uncomfortable. They wanted it shorter, they wanted it softer, they wanted it more palatable for mainstream audiences. Then came the event that would seal the film's fate. In April 1992, while Hackford was still editing the film, the Los Angeles riots erupted following the acquittal of 4 LAPD officers in the Rodney King beating case. The city burned for 6 days, and in the aftermath, fingers were pointed at movies like Boys in the Hood and Do the Right Thing, with some critics suggesting these films had somehow inspired or contributed to the civil unrest. Disney CEO Michael Eisner grew deeply concerned.
Hollywood Pictures, who made this picture, has a sense of corporate responsibility, I think, to their credit, that some other Hollywood studios don't have. I mean, Hollywood Pictures is a division of Disney. They know what they're doing and what their market is, and they don't want to be accused of being irresponsible. The title, which the old title was Blood In, Blood Out, is provocative. So what Hollywood Pictures did was said, let's go out and test in 3 markets. Let's take the title and the TV commercials and the artwork and open the movie in those markets and see. Then we'll really know, instead of just guessing. And we opened in 3 markets. We had very nice commercial response. In one instance in Las Vegas, whose gang problem very much mirrors Los Angeles's, we had a fist fight between 2 couples. Now, this took place 20 minutes before the film began. Had nothing to do with this movie, but it did have to do with expectations from the marketing. But that was enough for Hollywood Pictures to say, maybe we need to rethink our marketing, rethink our title. We went back, we redid the TV campaign, the artwork, and the title to Bound by Honor, which I think this is somewhat unprecedented.
Then came the release strategy that, based on what we know, appears designed to let the film fail quietly. Blood In, Blood Out opened on April 30th, 1993, on just 30 screens nationally. The Los Angeles release was delayed until May 21st, timed deliberately around when the verdict in the Rodney King civil rights trial was expected. There was virtually no marketing campaign, a few television ads, some print advertising, nothing compared to what a $40 million projection would normally warrant. The film grossed approximately $1 million from its initial limited release. The total theatrical run brought in only $4.5 million against that $35 million budget. Distributors did not plan to expand the release further, as crossover appeal to non-Hispanic audiences was deemed unlikely. Hackford and others involved with the film have said it felt like the studio was trying to bury the movie. Based on the evidence available, it is difficult to argue with that assessment. For years afterward, the film existed in a strange purgatory. It was not promoted, it was not celebrated, it was not given anniversary releases or special editions or the kind of treatment that other cult classics receive. While Disney meticulously restored and re-released films from their vault, Blood In, Blood Out gathered dust. The home video release told a different story than the theatrical failure. The film spread through communities with remarkable speed. VHS copies were passed from hand to hand, worn thin from repeated viewings. When DVD emerged, copies appeared at swap meets and flea markets across the Southwest. Why did Disney maintain such distance from this film? The official answers have always been vague. Concerns about violence, concerns about the portrayal of gang life and the prison system. But based on what we know about how studios operate, a simpler explanation suggests itself. Blood In, Blood Out did not fit the Disney brand. It could not be merchandised, it could not be turned into a theme park attraction. It depicted a reality that exists in this country, a reality of systemic poverty, of institutional failures, of the school-to-prison pipeline, of communities torn apart by circumstances beyond their control. This is not the kind of content that typically drives corporate synergy. When streaming platforms emerged, the film would appear and disappear from services with seemingly no pattern. Even today, finding a legitimate way to watch Blood In, Blood Out can be more challenging than it should be for a film with such an enormous following. In January 2024, for the 30th anniversary, over 2,500 fans gathered at California State University, Los Angeles for a special screening. Taylor Hackford and screenwriter Jimmy Santiago Baca attended, along with members of the cast. A limited edition anniversary book was released. The event was organized largely by the community that had kept the film alive for 3 decades, not by the studio that owned it.
To understand why Blood In, Blood Out became more than a movie, you have to understand what it meant to see yourself on screen in 1993. The history of Latino representation in Hollywood is a history of stereotypes and sidekicks, of gardeners and gang members with no interior lives, of accents played for laughs, and stories told by outsiders who had never walked these streets. Blood In, Blood Out was different. Here was a film that took 3 Latino protagonists seriously as complex human beings. The film depicted the Chicano experience with a specificity that had rarely been attempted in mainstream cinema. The art of the barrio, the culture of the prison yard, the intergenerational dynamics within families, the impossible choices faced by young men with limited options. The screenplay was co-written by Jimmy Santiago Baca, who drew from his own experiences with street gangs and imprisonment. When the film was released, something happened that the studio had not predicted. The Latino community claimed it as their own, not because it was perfect, not because it represented every experience, but because it represented something. It acknowledged that these lives, these struggles, these stories mattered enough to be told on the big screen. In the years since its release, Blood In, Blood Out has become a generational touchstone. Phrases from the film have entered everyday vocabulary. The characters are referenced and quoted with the familiarity of old friends. More than 30 years after its release, Blood In, Blood Out has outlived all expectations. It has outlived the studio's limited release strategy. It has outlived the lack of marketing, the title change, the decades of corporate indifference. The film endures because it spoke a truth that people needed to hear. It validated experiences that had been ignored or dismissed by mainstream Hollywood. It gave a community heroes who looked like them, who sounded like them, who struggled with the same impossible choices. Disney has spent decades keeping its distance, but the people remember. In an industry that measures success in opening weekend numbers and merchandise potential, Blood In, Blood Out offers a different metric. Sometimes the most important films are not the ones that succeed on Hollywood's terms. Sometimes they are the ones that survive despite Hollywood's best efforts to make them disappear. Blood In, Blood Out. That was the code in the film, a commitment that bound characters to each other and to their fate. Perhaps it is fitting that the film itself operates by the same code. Once you are in, once you have seen it, once it has spoken to you, there is no getting out. It becomes part of you, and no studio, no matter how powerful, can ever take that away.